She thought he was just a poor, crippled beggar. She shared her little food with him every day. But one morning, everything changed. Who was this man? Why did he choose her? And what secret had he been hiding all along? Sit back and find out as we dive into this shocking and heart-touching story. This is the story of a poor girl named Amina and a crippled beggar everyone mocked. Amina was a young woman, just 23 years old. She sold roasted maize and ground nuts in a small wooden stall beside the busy streets of Kano. Her stall was built from old planks and scraps of zinc roofing. It stood near a dusty junction where traders and travelers stopped to rest. Amina didn't have much. Her sandals were nearly torn, and her wrapper had several sewn patches. But she never stopped smiling. Even when she was exhausted, she welcomed everyone warmly. "Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome," she would say to anyone who came near. She rose before sunrise each day to prepare her goods. Her hands worked quickly, but her heart felt heavy. Amina had no one. She lost her parents in a fire when she was a child. She now lived alone in a one-room mud house behind the mosque. No electricity, no running water. Just her and her quiet prayers. One day, as Amina cleaned her stall, her neighbor Mama Ruqayya passed by. "Amina," Mama Ruqayya said, "why are you always smiling when you are struggling like the rest of us?" Amina chuckled softly and replied, "Because frowning doesn't make the day any easier." Mama Ruqayya shook her head and walked off, but her words echoed in Amina's mind. It was true. She had very little. Yet she still offered food to those who had nothing, never expecting anything in return. She didn't know her life was about to change. Every afternoon, something unusual happened at Amina's stall. A crippled beggar always appeared from the alley behind the bus park. He moved slowly, dragging his old handmade wheelchair along. The wheels scraped loudly on the dusty road. Creak, creak, creak. People often looked away or sneered. "Look at that dirty man again," one boy muttered. The man's legs were wrapped in dirty cloth. His shorts were torn at the knees. His face was covered in dust. His eyes looked worn out. Some people said he smelled. Others whispered that he had gone mad. But Amina never looked away. She called him Malam Gambo. That afternoon, under the blazing Kano sun, Malam Gambo pushed his old wheelchair and stopped beside her stall. Amina looked at him and said softly, "You're back again, Malam Gambo. You didn't come yesterday." Malam. Gambo looked down. His voice was weak. "I was too tired to move," he said. "I haven't eaten in 2 days." Amina glanced at her table. Only one plate of maize and ground nuts was left. That was supposed to be her dinner. She paused for a moment. Then, without a word, she picked up the plate and placed it in front of him. "Here, eat," she said. Malam Gambo looked at the food, then back at her. "You're giving me your last meal again?" Amina nodded. "I'll manage when I get home." His hands trembled as he reached for the spoon. His eyes looked wet, but no tears came. He just bent his head and began to eat slowly. Passers-by stared at them. "Amina, why do you always feed that beggar?" one woman asked. Amina smiled and replied, "If I were the one sitting in that wheelchair, wouldn't I pray for someone to help me too?" Malam Gambo came every day, but he never begged aloud. He didn't shout at people. He didn't stretch out his hands. He never asked for food or money. He just sat quietly in his old wheelchair, near Amina's stall, his head always facing down. His hands stayed folded on his lap. The wheelchair looked like it could fall apart any time. One wheel even leaned sideways. While others passed him without a glance, Amina always gave him a hot plate of food. Sometimes roasted yam, sometimes maize with pepper sauce. She served it with a cheerful heart. One hot afternoon, Amina had just finished giving ground nuts to two schoolgirls when she looked up and saw Malam Gambo again, sitting quietly as usual. His legs were still wrapped in the same bandages. His shirt now had more holes, but he sat there, calmly, as always. Amina smiled and scooped some hot rice into a plate. She added 2 small pieces of meat and walked over to him. "Malam Gambo," she said gently, "your food is ready." Malam Gambo looked up slowly. His eyes were tired, but when he saw Amina, they softened. "You always remember me," he said. Amina knelt and placed the food gently on a small stool beside him. "Even if the whole world forgets you," she said, "I won't." Just then, a sleek black SUV rolled up and stopped right in front of her stall. The door opened slowly, and a man stepped out. He wore a spotless white caftan and dark leather shoes. His shoes gleamed like someone had just polished them fresh. He was tall and broad-shouldered with calm but sharp eyes. Amina quickly stood and wiped her hands on her wrapper. "Good afternoon, sir," she said. "Good afternoon," the man replied. But his eyes weren't on her. He was staring straight at Malam Gambo. The man didn't blink. He just looked at him for a long time. Malam Gambo kept eating, but Amina noticed something strange. He had stopped chewing. The man stepped forward, tilting his head slightly as though he was trying to recognize him. Then he turned to her and said, "Please give me 1 plate of rice. Add meat." Amina quickly served the food and passed it to him, but as the man took the plate, he looked back at Malam Gambo once more. This time, his eyes seemed confused. He quietly got back into his car and drove away without another word. The next morning, Amina woke up early. She swept the front of her stall and cleaned the wooden bench like she always did. As the sun rose, she kept glancing down the road. "Any moment now," she whispered, "Malam Gambo will appear." But hours passed. No wheelchair, no Malam Gambo. By midday, her chest felt tight. She stepped aside and looked both ways down the dusty street. "Where could he be?" she whispered. She asked Mama Rukaya, the woman selling peppers nearby. "Auntie, did you see Malam Gambo today?" Mama Rukaya laughed and waved her hand. "That old beggar? Maybe he rolled to another junction. He doesn't have proper legs." Amina didn't laugh. She asked 2 boys selling cold water in sachets, "Have you seen the old man with the broken wheelchair?" They shook their heads. She even asked the Kiki driver who always parked by the corner, "Uncle, did you see Malam Gambo this morning?" The man spat on the ground and said, "Maybe he's tired of sitting there. Or maybe he's gone." Amina's heart felt heavy. She sat quietly beside her pot of rice, staring at the empty spot where Malam Gambo always stayed. Her eyes never left that space. All day. 2 more days passed. Still no sign of Malam Gambo. Amina couldn't smile like before. She served her customers, but her face stayed dull. Her food lost its taste. Even the sweet smell of her famous tuwo made her stomach turn. Her thoughts kept going back to Malam Gambo. "Did something bad happen to him?" she whispered. That night, she sat alone in her tiny room behind the stall, holding the last plate she had served him. "Malam Gambo never misses a day," she said softly. "Even when it rains, even when he's sick. So why now?" She stood up and opened her small window. A cold wind blew into the room. Tears filled her eyes. She wasn't just worried anymore. She was afraid. Something was wrong. Deep inside, she knew he wasn't just missing. Something had happened. Something serious, maybe even dangerous. On the 4th day, Amina sat quietly at her stall. She was peeling onions and setting her table like always. Smoke rose from her small fire as she boiled water for the rice. Then a black SUV stopped in front of her stall. A tall man stepped out. He wore a bright red Hausa cap. His outfit looked rich and clean, and his shoes sparkled in the sun. Amina had never seen him before. He didn't smile or greet. He just walked to her table and handed her a brown envelope. Amina looked at it, confused. "What's this?" she asked, holding the envelope with both hands. The man didn't answer. He simply said, "Read it. Don't tell anyone." Then he turned and walked back to the car. Before Amina could speak again, the SUV drove off. She looked left and right. No one was watching. With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope. Inside was a single white paper. She opened it slowly. Only a few words were written. "Come to Sunset Lodge by 4 p.m. Don't tell anyone. From a friend." Amina stood still. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Her hands shook. "Sunset Lodge?" she whispered. "I've never been inside a hotel before." She stared at the paper again. Her heart raced. Who sent this? What kind of friend? She looked down the road. The car was gone. She clutched the envelope to her chest and looked at the cloudy sky. But she knew one thing for sure. She had to go. At exactly 3:30 p.m., Amina stood outside her small stall. She looked at the lock in her hand, took a deep breath, and closed the wooden door. She turned the key twice. "Ya Allah, please go with me," she prayed softly. She walked to the roadside and stopped a kiki. "Sunset Lodge," she told the driver. As they drove through the busy Madaki road, Amina held the brown envelope tightly. Her heart beat faster. She didn't know who sent the note or what to expect. But something told her. This was no ordinary day. After some minutes, the tricycle stopped in front of the hotel. Amina looked up. The building was tall with shiny glass windows. The walls were spotless. The front door sparkled. Everything around her felt like a movie. 2 security guards stood at the gate. One of them, wearing dark shades, stepped forward. "Good afternoon, madam," he said. "Who are you here to see?" Amina slowly opened her mouth. I received this letter," she said, showing him the paper. "It says I should come here. My name is Amina." The guard took the paper, looked at it, then smiled. "Ah, Amina. Someone is waiting for you inside," he said. "You may go in." Just then, a man in a black suit walked out from the glass door. He came straight to Amina. He didn't say much. "Come with me, please," he said, and turned around. Amina followed. Her legs felt weak, but she kept moving. The man led her through a long corridor. Then he stopped at a tall wooden door. He turned to her. "Someone is waiting inside." Amina's heart thudded in her chest. She looked at the door, then at him. "Can I go in now?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes, you're safe." Amina took one deep breath. Then she opened the door slowly. Her eyes landed on a man sitting in a wheelchair at the center of the room. She froze. Her mouth opened. Her hands trembled. "Malam Gambo," she gasped. But this man didn't look like the beggar who used to sit near her stall. His hair was trimmed. His face was fresh. He wore a white caftan with golden embroidery. A silver watch glittered on his wrist. The wheelchair was modern and clean. He didn't look sick or tired. He looked confident and peaceful. He gave her a soft smile. "Amina," he said gently. "Come in." Amina stood still. Her heart raced. She stared at him. "Malam Gambo." "Is this really you?" she asked. The man met her eyes. "Yes, Amina, it's me." He pointed to the chair beside him. "Please sit." Amina slowly walked in and sat down. Her eyes fixed on him. "My name is not really Malam Gambo," he said kindly. Amina blinked. "It's not?" He shook his head. "My real name is Alhaji Musa Dantani. I'm a billionaire." Amina's mouth fell open. "A billionaire?" she said in a whisper. Alhaji Musa nodded. Yes, I own factories, farms, and schools. I've helped build towns. Amina looked confused. But why pretend to be poor? He smiled, but his eyes turned serious. I wanted to see real kindness, not the kind people show when they think they'll gain something. I wanted to find someone who helps because they care. Amina's eyes grew wet. You gave me food, he continued. You treated me with respect. You never turned me away or asked for anything. He looked at her with deep kindness. That is why you are here. Every year I choose 10 people who show true kindness. I help them become millionaires so they can bless others too. Amina was speechless, still trying to believe what she was hearing. Alhaji Musa gave a quiet smile. Then slowly he placed his hands on the arms of the wheelchair. Amina leaned forward. Then he stood up. Amina's eyes widened, her mouth dropped. You can walk? She asked. Alhaji Musa nodded. Yes, he said gently. I can walk. Amina leaned back in her seat, stunned. But why use the wheelchair? He looked at her and said, I wanted to know who would still treat me well, even if I looked like I had nothing. I wanted to know who truly cared. Amina's lips trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't help you, because I wanted anything, she whispered. I didn't even know you were rich. I just wanted to help. Alhaji Musa smiled and stepped closer. That's exactly why I chose you. He stood quietly for a moment, then said, Amina, come with me. I want to show you something. She looked at him, surprised. Something? Yes, he smiled. It's part of your reward. You have a good heart. People like you deserve good things. Amina stood up slowly. Okay, she said softly. Alhaji Musa opened the door. She followed him out. 2 men in black suits stood waiting. They nodded at him and followed behind. Amina looked around. Everything felt like a dream. When they stepped outside, her mouth dropped open. 5 black SUVs were parked in a perfect line. Each one gleamed under the sun. More men in black stood beside them. Alhaji Musa walked to the first car. One of the men opened the door for him. Amina stood still. He looked back and smiled. Come in, Amina. She took a deep breath and entered the car. As soon as the door shut, the other cars followed. The convoy moved like royalty. Amina sat quietly beside him. Where was he taking her? What was about to happen? The city passed by, the window, people walking, shops busy, cars honking, but her heart was far away. About 30 minutes later, they turned into a quiet road. The buildings were new and beautiful. Glass walls, fresh signs, bright paint. Then the cars stopped. Alhaji Musa stepped out. A guard opened Amina's door. Come, he said. And there it was. A huge, beautiful building. Not a stall, not a shack, but a grand luxury restaurant, the kind only rich people entered. It stood tall and proud with wide glass windows. The walls were white and shiny like marble. The doors had golden handles. Amina's breath caught in her throat. What was this, and why was he showing it to her? There were flowers at the entrance. Amina's mouth opened. She had never seen anything like this in her life. But what shocked her the most was the signboard. It said, Amina's Haven, Taste of the North. Amina took a step back. She looked at the sign again to be sure her eyes were not playing tricks. Is this real? She asked in a low voice. Alhaji Musa nodded gently. Yes, it's yours. Mine? She whispered. He reached to his pocket and pulled a bunch of keys stretched it towards Amina, and pointed at the door. "Go inside." Amina collected the keys and walked slowly to the door. Her hands were shaking. She opened it. What she saw inside made her cover her mouth. The floor was shining. The chairs were big and soft. The tables looked like they were made from glass and gold. There were lights on the ceiling that looked like stars. The air smelled fresh. Everything was new and perfect. There was a big kitchen at the back. Inside, she saw gas cookers, clean pots, deep freezers, fridges, and even uniforms for workers. She turned slowly to look at Alhaji Musa. Her eyes were full of tears. "You bought all this? For me?" "Alhaji." Musa walked in and stood beside her. "Yes," he said softly. "You fed me with your small money when you had nothing. Now I want to give you a place where kings and queens will come to eat. You will never suffer again." Amina dropped to her knees. Her hands covered her face. She was crying, but they were happy tears. "I don't know what to say," she said. "You don't need to say anything," Alhaji Musa replied. "Your kindness already spoke for you." From that day, Amina became the boss of a big food plaza in Kaduna. It was not like her small roadside shop anymore. This place was grand. The floors were shiny. The walls had fine lights. The chairs were soft and clean. Music played softly in the background. People felt peace once they stepped in. She didn't cook anymore. She didn't serve food. Professional. Cooks handled the kitchen. They wore white coats and hats. Waiters wore fine uniforms and smiled as they served food. Amina just sat in her office upstairs. Her name was on the door. Her picture was on the wall. Everyone respected her. But even with all the money, comfort, and fame, she never forgot where she came from. She never forgot Alhaji Musa. And she never forgot how kindness changed her. Life. One morning, her manager walked into her office. "Madam," he said, "the food truck is ready." Amina stood up. "Let's go," she said. Outside the restaurant, a big white van was waiting. On the side of the van was a name: Amina's Food Love, Feeding Kaduna. Amina had started a charity. Every week, her food trucks went around the city. They gave free food to poor people, under the bridges, near bus stops, around markets. People lined up with smiles. Some had no shoes. Some were children. Some were old men. Amina walked to each one and handed them warm food. She said, "Eat well. You are not forgotten." One of her workers whispered, "Madam, why do you do this?" Amina looked up slowly. She touched her chest softly. "Kindness brought me here, so I must send kindness out again." The worker nodded quietly, and as they all watched the people eat and smile, the sun shone gently on Amina's face. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Alhaji Musa. Thank you for seeing me." Then she turned, walked back to the van, and drove off to feed the next street. Her life had changed forever, but her heart stayed the same. This story teaches us one powerful lesson: kindness is never wasted. You may not have much, but when you give from a pure heart, your reward will find you when you least expect it. What did this story teach you? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I would really love to read from you. And guess what? There's another very interesting story coming in a few days. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know when it drops. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Someone out there might need to hear it. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your time and support. See you in the next story.